right. Hello, everyone. Dave here with yet another episode of Ty's Take. And there, of course, is Tyrod A, the star of the show. I promise in later episodes we will get to where she is more running the show. Still, right now, we're still kind of in the incubation period. We're bringing her up to speed. She's still kind of orienting to Earth and so forth. One exciting thing I'll mention here is that we will soon be taking her out and going on the street so we can like directly talk with some people of Earth and get some direct feedback rather than just hear it from me. We all know my opinion by now, and so we're going to give her a little bit of a broader range of input there. So that's coming up. We'll let you know more as we get closer to that. But for today, we're going to just continue with Ty's questions. So, Ty, if you want to take it away, if you've got anything on your mind, anything I can answer?
Mentioned a lot regarding like us being on space and really making it there and living there. What about like the people that don't really want to be part of that, don't really want to be there? I'm sure not everyone's going to want to do that.
Right.
Or for them, if we're trying to get everyone in that space.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that will be a good question. And that is, we've kind of danced around that a little bit in all of our conversations so far. If we are going to make a concerted global effort, and that is something that, we're kind of pushing, is that we, for a little while at least, put some of our differences aside, focus on cooperating and working together on to achieve that objective because it is quite large. And it would definitely benefit from a global effort. But then, globalism is often a swear word. We're not advocating, and I'm not advocating for like a globalist, like all one world type thing. That might eventually happen, but I'm not suggesting that we need to go in that direction right away. I think we can, individual countries and groups can kind of maintain their autonomy while still fighting a little bit less and working together a little bit more. How that applies, if there are people that really don't want to be part of that, that is definitely a good question. I mean, there is unfortunately really nowhere else to go at this point on this planet. I mean, centuries ago, a lot of people came to America. America was a kind of a new land, a new opportunity. We don't really have that anymore. There's nowhere on Earth that you could go and start some new enterprise or some new country or whatever. So, short of either all coming together as one or grouping together more in unified blocks and so forth, or continuing to fight each other and try to take over territory and so forth here on Earth, which obviously is not ideal. Our best option is to work together.
Right.
It is something that we have to consider, and it is something that I don't have as many opinions as I seem to have. I actually don't have, an answer for that. I don't know how we work together as a planet if there are people that don't actually want to be part of that. So how's that for a non-answer? I wish I had it figured out.
Now you've a couple times like how often you guys fight and
Yeah.
like how often that does or can occur. If we can't all work together and that doesn't become a thing that we can do, you think this is still a goal that we can reach, getting there?
Yeah, I do, and I honestly, I think that may be the way it ends up happening is a little bit in conflict. Um, as long as the wars and as long as our conflicts don't get so intense, like I know on your planet, basically everything had gone to hell, and there was no cooperation. There was just war between this faction and that faction, and you guys weren't really making any progress.
Work for us.
Yeah, exactly. So Wars aren't the solution, but being that we do love our army stuff, us humans, we really do, and we like to fight and we like to, conflict has always been part of our existence, historically, all the way coming forward. But again, the balance has been towards cooperation. We talked about this in earlier episodes.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation over the internet with the, electricity and power and, everything that we enjoy, all the conveniences and things that we enjoy, and the civilization that we live in and securities that we have, if we hadn't, as a species, as humans, cooperated more than we'd fought. So there is the very real possibility that as we move into space, it's kind of in parallel paths. Right now, China and America are in a big space race, and China is moving very quickly to establish a presence in space. I can tell you more about China offline. Our listeners already know all about China, but they are one of our big competitors. We're not at war with China, but there is a competition that exists there. That while we do cooperate with them in certain areas, there's also they're trying to do things, we're trying to do things, and we're not always like in alignment on doing those things. So
But in general, that's good, right? That means both sides are trying to get at things.
that's true. It does. It drives competition, and even though the better ideal would be if we're in alignment and sharing information and working hard together to get to the same objectives, that's
Right.
unlikely to happen. So the competition that results from this quote unquote space race does actually have a net positive. So, I'd hate for that to be the way that it goes, but that is likely the way that it's going to go. So, to answer your question, yes, we will still make it to space, even if we're not all pulling together as a planet 100% in alignment.
Hmm.
And that'll happen mainly out of competition.
Is would you say Earth is like at a brink in that regard?
It sure feels like it right now. Again, having experienced it and lived, a lifetime here, which you haven't. I will say it's been a long time since our last truly global conflict. We had a couple of wars a long time ago, one called World War II and one called World War One, where basically the entire planet, in some form or another, was at war. We were fighting with each other. Probably at that time
Mm-hmm.
wasn't very dissimilar from where you come from. And it's been a while, and there's a lot of conflicts happening, especially around between some of the larger powers. For the last many decades, the wars and things that were happening tended to be what we call proxy wars. They weren't direct wars between the big superpowers. They were more us backing this country, the other, Russia or somebody else backing another country, and the wars took place not directly between us. I'm not saying that's about to happen, but there's a lot of friction right now in the world, and we need to handle that at least enough so that we can focus on these pro survival things, like getting to space and like establishing our off world presence and the ability to exist extraplanetary and so forth. Just to make another kind of analogy, at this stage, we're like kids in a sandbox, and we kind of overrun the sandbox at this stage. And and we're fighting and we're bickering and we're fighting for the slide, and this person wants the castle building set, and this person wants the monkey bars, and that's going to continue, and it's only going to get worse as more of us fill up the sandbox and as we increasingly have nowhere else really to go and nowhere else to turn our attention. So again, we've said this earlier too, but now more than ever, we really need to be putting our attention outside of this particular sandbox and looking at how we can go to the next and the next. So we have to be looking out. We've been
Right.
looking in for too long, and we're almost too big for the sandbox now. And if we keep at it without coming together and focusing on these bigger targets and looking for another playground, so to speak, another place where we can play, yeah, the problems are only going to increase. So anyway,
Well, okay.
that's my not to be a downer, I do have a lot of hope. I have a ton of hope, and I do believe.
Problem to solve.
Yes.
Problem to solve.
Yeah. Yeah. We've got a. It's a problem to solve, and it's good to have problems. And in this case, the potential solution of actually creating the ability to go to space more easily and to live elsewhere would be awesome. And I do think we're going to solve that. So why don't we end that one there, and we'll jump over, do another episode, and pick up some more questions.
Okay.
All right, sounds good. All right, everyone, we will see you in the next episode.